When I was invited to come here, President Wilkinson suggested that I maybe talk a little bit about miracles. Well, it'll be a miracle if I do. A few weeks ago, I was called to the county hospital in Salt Lake City by a mother. I didn't know her. She said her boy was dying from polio. Would I come down and give the boy a blessing?
I remember getting really, really sick, and I thought it was just a cold or the flu, and it just got worse and worse, and my throat felt like it was closing off. A doctor in our neighborhood, who was our family physician, recognized the symptoms and said, "I think he has polio. We need to get him out to Salt Lake where they have a polio ward as soon as possible." They put me in an iron lung. Within a day or less of when I was in the iron lung, Matthew Cowley and Glenn Rudd came to give me a blessing. And as they came into the polio ward, they met one of the nurses that was on duty in my area. According to Elder Rudd's comments to me, he said, "She told us, that's great, but you're about 15 minutes too late."
So we went down there, and here was this young lad in an iron lung, had a tube in his throat, and they said he had one lower down in the abdomen, unconscious, his face rather a blackish color.
When you run out of air, you either go pale or you go really dark, and I was really dark. The type of polio that I had is called bulbar polio, and it affects your breathing muscles, and it's a gradual takeover of your system, and it's usually fatal.
We went in and we blessed that boy. And it was one of those occasions when I knew, as I laid my hands upon that lad, that he was an unusual boy and that kid had faith. And having faith in his faith, I blessed him to get well and promised him he would.
In this blessing, it was very positive that I would get over this polio and that I would serve a mission and go forward.
I never heard any more about him till last Saturday. I was on my way to conference. I dropped in the county hospital and asked if I might see the lad. As I walked down the hall, out came the boy running to meet me. He still had a tube in his throat. I said, "How long are you going to have that there?" He says, "Oh, 2 weeks. 2 more weeks, then I'm all well." He says, "How about another blessing?" So I said, "Certainly." So I blessed him again, and then I was in a hurry. I wanted to get off to my conference. And then he stopped me. He says, "Hey, how about my partner in the next bed? Don't go out without blessing him." He says, "He's my partner." And so I blessed him. And I can bear witness to you that God can work through his priesthood, and that he does work through it. I know that without any question of doubt. I've had too many experiences. I'm an expert witness about these things.
No one turned Matthew Cowley off on the television or on the radio if he were speaking. You just don't turn Matthew Cowley off. He talked about a little boy in a hospital, and he goes down on the record of one of the finest talks of all time by any general authority.
Elder Matthew Cowley of the Council of the 12 will be our next speaker. Elder Cowley.
Yesterday morning, had I been called upon to speak, I would have attempted to speak about the integrity of the home. But I was told this morning that an inquiry had been made about when I was going to speak, so that a little friend of mine could listen in. And so I'm going to talk about my little friend Joe, who's in the polio ward of the county hospital.
The nurses got really excited and they said, "He's speaking." And so I was able to hear him. It was wonderful. It gave everybody hope
I want to say to you, little Joe, we're thinking about you. We're praying for you. We've been told here by the great leaders of this church that we should have simple faith. Christ himself said that we should have faith like yours, the faith of a little child. And there are a lot of your companions down there with you. We are thinking of them, the other little Joes and the little Janes. And I know, my little friend, that your faith can do much to make them whole. There are others, adults, who are reaching out because they feel that medical science may fail. And with your faith, they can know that where medical science has to lay the burden down, the power and priesthood of God can pick that burden up and restore them to health and strength. We say to you, stay close together. Attend your meetings regularly, even though your numbers may be limited by law to 4 or to 2. Stay together. Renew your covenants with God by partaking of the sacrament. And I tell you that you cannot have your lights darkened, because this work cannot be blacked out by the legislation of man. They may close your chapels. They may deny you the right to assemble in worship, but behind your own doors you have the priesthood of God. And in your homes, where the priesthood of God exists, there is Zion. And in your lives, which are committed to righteousness, I say unto you, you are Zion.